All right, if I can have everyone's attention, please. We now welcome Dale Earnhardt Jr., driver of the number 88 National Guard Diet Mountain Dew Chevrolet. Dale Jr. currently sits second in points with one win so far this season. Dale Jr., going into the second half of the season, talk a little bit about being here at New Hampshire this weekend.
Just like racing here, always run really well here, and we had the good fortune of tire testing with Goodyear a couple months ago, and that went really well, and we're happy with the way that went. So just been looking forward to coming here for the race, and like I said, we've had some really good cars here, and I feel like that this is one of my better tracks, and I just hope to eventually get to Victory Lane one day, and this weekend as good as any.
All right, we'll take questions for Dale Jr. Please raise your hand. We'll get a wireless mic to you. Please state your name and affiliation. We'll start in the back with Claire, then we'll come back up to Doug.
Claire Lang, Sirius XM NASCAR Radio. A lot of people struggle with this track. Why do you think you know why this is one of your better tracks, and what is it that you like about this track?
It kind of lends itself to the short track mentality, and the style of racing is a bit like you find at short tracks, and I enjoy racing at short tracks. Have a great track record at all the short tracks we run at, so I kind of feel like that's a bit of my wheelhouse, and this place is sort of fits toward that.
Go ahead, Doug.
Doug Rice, PRN. Dale, obviously you're wearing the National Guard colors today. I wanted to get your reaction to when you heard that the Army was pulling out of car sponsorship for next year, and your thoughts on that.
I was disappointed to hear about that. They've been a part of the sport for a very long time, and it's just unfortunate. But I feel like that our program's really productive. Apparently that they don't feel like that theirs was productive, but I feel like ours is successful, and marketing in any business is hard work, and I feel like we do a good job of it, always have, and I feel pretty good about the relationship I have with the Guard. But it's just disappointing when any company or big entity like that leaves the sport entirely.
Okay, we'll go Nate, David, Kurt, and Bob.
Nate Ryan, USA Today. Dale, talking about wanting to get a win here. During the Chase era, the 8 seasons of the Chase era, 4 times the champion has won one of the 2 races here. I asked Jimmy about that, and he said that it was probably because the track is so unique, and it's kind of like Indy being a barometer because it's so difficult. Could you talk about that? Like, would winning a race here kind of stamp you more as a contender, and does it mean more because it is maybe so difficult and so unique compared to the rest of the tracks?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. It is different, there's really, it's not like it's not really a short track, and it's not your typical mile and a half. So yeah, it's different, and it's fun, and the race here I think is like the perfect length, and just everything about it, it is enjoyable. Coming to a racetrack that's not like every other track you run on, and the race is a bit short, so there's urgency all the time, and which is fun. There's excitement all the time inside the cockpit, which is fun. So every lap and every car you're around is important because the race is so short. You have to race really hard all day long, because every position, even in the first 100 laps, is one you might not get back, in the next 200 laps. I mean, it goes by so quick, so you can't really be too patient. You kind of have to work every lap. But the corners are, that you wouldn't think they're very fun because they're so flat and basic. But for whatever reason, how the seams and how the groove lines up and where you run kind of moves around and changes a little bit, and it's a bit of a driver's racetrack in that regard, where you gotta, if the car's not really turning, you can use the apron a little bit in and off the corner. And there's a seam above the groove that's just a foot above the groove that you don't want to have nothing to do with, because the car just takes off and pushes really bad if you get the right front end of that. So you got to be mindful every lap to run into the corner as hard as you can, but just not so hard that you get into that seam there and lose the nose. So it's a driver's racetrack, and I really enjoy it. I really enjoy running here. Always have.
Go ahead, David.
Yeah, Dale, David Newton, ESPN.com. Matt Kenseth in here earlier said he'd be shocked if NASCAR didn't have a rock-solid case before suspending a driver. I was wondering, what was your reaction? How do you feel about that and your reaction to AJ's situation?
I think that's what I tell myself, to make myself not as nervous, about it. I mean, anytime somebody gets in trouble, regardless of what it is, when you don't know the true identity of the crime or don't have a real understanding of the chain of events, it's everybody gets curious, nervous, whatever. But I'm certain that as big and structured an organization as NASCAR is, and the agency they have that works with them on their drug program, they can't make any mistakes. They can't afford to make any mistakes. So I assume, although I don't have any answers or don't know anything about this particular incident, I have to believe that they are making the right calls and the right choices, and there's a reason, to make the call they made. So, even though you don't get what you want in terms of details, you have to believe that the program is true, and it's it's definitely a good thing to have, but you just have to believe in it, that that they're doing what's right and they're not making any mistakes. So I mean, they can't afford to, so you just have to assume the best.
Okay, we'll go Kurt, Bob, Mike, and Ryan. Go ahead, Kurt.
Kurt Cavan, Indianapolis Star, and a quick follow-up to this. When you get to Indianapolis, and I know it's a week ahead, but such an iconic place, and even optimistically, the place might only be half full. Do you notice that? Do you care as a race car driver on race weekend if that's the case?
Well, you care that the grandstands aren't full. You want full grandstands everywhere you go, but I'm not sure I personally particularly take notice each weekend or at a place like Indy, where I wouldn't particularly take note of where the fans are and how many are there. But yeah, I mean, when there's I don't know Indianapolis well enough to really notice what a full Indianapolis looks like versus what we'll see when we go there. But I do know, I do recognize things like when we go to Daytona, and I remember one particular event in July where the race fans were upset about the race ending under caution, and they littered the back straightaway with seat cushions. And then when we run there this past weekend, there wasn't anybody in the back grandstand. So, I mean, you notice things like that.
And given the record heat that we've seen across most of the country, is it sometimes amazing that people will sit in these metal grandstands at racetracks, given how hot it's been?
Yeah, I mean, I've when I used to, when I was younger, before I was driving, I would sneak out of the condos at Charlotte and get into the grandstands and watch from the grandstands. And so but that's about all the experience I have of watching a race from that point of view. But you definitely have to use precaution as far as hydrating and drinking plenty of water and wearing enough sunscreen in some of these places.
Go ahead with your question, Bob.
Bob Hocker, Sporting News. You talked about being curious and nervous because of maybe a lack of details so far in the AJ situation. Do you do anything do you ask NASCAR questions, or do you ask them either about that situation or about anything that you might be taking, or do you just stay curious and nervous and hope that nothing happens to you?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that I go ask questions. I go ask, and you know, if you're curious and about anything, I think the policy is pretty. The policy to be able to go up in that holler and ask anybody what you want to know has been always pretty good for me. I've never been turned away and never felt like I didn't get an honest answer or feel better when I walk out of there. But so yeah, I mean, it's just you know, everybody's just kind of nervous about not knowing nothing. You know, everybody's curious about it and nervous, I guess. I don't know.
You're worried about, are you nervous because you're worried about something happening to you when you get tested, or are you nervous about not wondering maybe what's going on with other drivers?
Not really either one. Nervous about, more nervous about it being, you know, a mistake or the agency making a mistake and it being a big problem for the sport. I just, knowing all the guys that I race against, I wouldn't have never guessed, you know, and I don't look at anybody in the sport and have any worries about them or any curiosities about anybody's activities that way from the racetrack. Everybody to me looks up and up, and you know, I feel rock solid about myself too. So it's just, you you just don't know how that could happen. You know, it's just hard to wrap your head around anybody making a mistake or a driver making a mistake or just, you know, the agency making a mistake. You just don't know, you know. It's hard to wrap your head around it.
Final two questions from Mike and Ryan.
Hey, Dale. Mike Vega, Boston Globe. Just a two-parter here. First off, here you are sitting in the standings second with 8 races to go before the start of the chase. How do you feel about your position right now as opposed to the other times when you're contending for a chase spot? And second part, you had Jimmy Johnson and Casey Kane, 2 teammates, go out and do a sprint triathlon after Daytona.
Yeah.
Jimmy Johnson, after taking a hard hit, did they try to convince you, hey, man, why don't you come join us?
No, I mean, I think Jimmy knows better than to waste too much time on that. But you know, I think I feel pretty good about our position in the chase right now, or position to make the chase. I feel pretty good. You know, I feel like we can get more comfortable with these races and what to do and taking some risks, or you know, we have been the team that's kind of played it really careful, you know, in a lot of these races, using Pocono as an example, where everybody stayed out and we come in to make sure we can make it on fuel, and it was obvious by the end of the race everybody was fine. But so I think we can, you know, in the position we're in now, I know it's just a few weeks later, but you know, we feel better about our position to make the chase. We can, if we're in that situation again, we can gamble, you know, and I like that, and hopefully we can win some more races doing that. But you know, you know, we've had a great year. I feel awesome to be in second in points. I feel like we've made a good statement on how strong we are as a team, and you know, we just want to keep preparing for the chase. You know, we're not ready for the chase. We want to learn more, know more, feel more prepared, and do everything we can in the next couple months to be ready and feel like we have a solid idea and a solid foundation as a team to do well and try to win the championship.
Is it a time of the year to try and gamble on certain things, or do you want to continue just to?
No, I think we can now. I think we feel, you know, with the lead we have on 11th place in the points, and the amount of races left, I feel like we can, you know, we're going to gamble foolishly, but we can, you know, we can go the opposite route that we went at Pocono the past race. We could do something, you know, we could do what everybody else did and maybe try to win that race instead of make sure we've, you know, had enough gas and finish in 8th. We could try to win that race. I like what we did up to this point, and maybe now we can take some gambles.
Final question, Ryan.
Ryan McGee, ESPN. You're talking about the difference between now and a year ago. How much different does it feel? This was the time of year last year where you kind of did that slide from 3rd down to 10th in points, not happening this year. How different does it feel versus a year ago or even 2 years ago?
Yeah, I mean, we you the summer feels a whole lot better because, like you said, we're having some good runs, and you know, we had some bad luck last week, and I never you know, never know what I'm going to do when I go to Sonoma. So we just kind of, you know, we look at the other races, Poconos and Michigans, and coming here, and last year we struggled a little bit through the summer, and this year we're doing better. We feel good about it. You know, I think it has a lot to do with the team getting a lot better, Steve getting a lot better, me and his relationship in particular getting better, us understanding the setups and the patterns that we're seeing and the things that I like and what I ran well with and having, and sort of understanding what to put under the car. We show up to the racetrack fast instead of having to sort of dial it in. When we get here, we show up really close. The team's just doing great. You know, I've been in the sport and had teams at times where they just, everybody's getting it and everything's working and the cars show up ready and fast, and that's happening for us. And I just hope we can keep it going. You know, I don't know, you know, these things sort of cycle around and teams, you know, come and go as far as their strengths, but hopefully we can keep this going longer than just this year. I think we got a good thing going on, and we just kind of keep together and see how long we can keep it going.
Dale, thank you for your
Thank you.
time. Good luck this weekend.